Literary canon can lead the audience to an understanding of the present and affirm or reshape an individual's sense of the past. In this presentation, the three main themes both Don and Monsignor Quixote used to do so will be presented. Firstly, both explore the power of belief to shape experience. Secondly, both explore the power of structures on an individual. Finally, both feature attempts to reconstruct a bygone era. These combine to lead to an understanding of the present and the past. The power of belief to shape experience is a key theme in both texts, used to both solidify and reshape the audience's perception of the past and understanding of the present. This leads to two different insights in both texts, with Cervantes focusing on the Stoic view that we have sole control over our emotional response to events, and Greene arguing we have control over our understanding of events, and thus can shape our own experience through belief. In the first majority of the novel, Don Quixote never complains through any of his sallies, despite obvious physical harm, and in the remainder, the converted Sancho remains unharmed while Don Quixote is made weak and vulnerable. As can be seen through his conversation with Sancho near the start of the novel after he has been injured by a windmill, Don Quixote refuses to feel pain, going on to not feel pain until near the end, when Book 2's chapter 47 starts as is on screen. From this point, Sancho feels no physical pain, even while giving himself the whips he's been convinced are necessary. This role reversal reveals Cervantes' belief that events that happen to us are shaped through the way we perceive them, similar to Stoics' practices, and reveals that Don Quixote's madness protected him, as seen by him renouncing it only in death. This is the only sympathy Cervantes lends Don Quixote. He understands that belief shapes our response to experience, and that false beliefs can thus be a protection from negative experience, but he does not believe that this is good. He believes rational thinking and attempts to find the real truth should triumph. This solidifies the audience's belief that there is one true past, and any mythologized beliefs of it are wishful and harmful. The final climactic scene of Monsignor Quixote is the Latin Mass with no Eucharistic bread. It is the culmination of Greene's themes with Quixote's tragic death, similar to Cervantes' ending. However, he dies in the action of an illicit mass, not in the safety of sanity. In a discussion with the mayor, the other priest argues that because the bread was present to the Monsignor, it was a valid mass. This rhetorical question symbolically ties together the ever-present theme of the power of belief throughout the novel. It starts with the simple disagreement over the Monsignor's claim and ancestry, and ends with the mass, leading the audience to question where the truth lies. This reshapes the audience's understanding of the past from something static and true to something dependent on the beliefs of the present, and thus reveals how what was true depends only on what we hold as true now. It is also worth noting that Catherine McClymon's 2006 essay notes this ritual as the first and only thing that Quixote does that discomforts Sancho. Thus, Greene argues that, whether or not true, it holds some level of power in its action. Cervantes carries the idea that our personal belief of situations is what controls our personal reaction, and, thus, their effect on us. Therefore, insanity works for Don Quixote as a protection from the dangers of the world. However, Greene takes Descartes' view and argues that belief is actually what happened, as there is no experience in the world beyond our mind's perception. The power of structures is explored in both texts in a way that reshapes individuals' sense of the past. This is done through both novels showing how the power they hold depends on the individual. Cervantes was fearful to directly insult the class structure in his context. As such, he uses indirect satire, having Don Quixote jump from a hidalgo, a minor title with little wealth, to a title reserved for nobility. This fluidity, something reserved for Don Quixote's character, points out the inherent uselessness Cervantes saw in the class structure. It holds only as much power as it is assigned. This reshapes the way the audience sees not only the contemporary present, with the gradual death of the class system under the effects of capitalism, but the past as well, as it reveals that the power that has, for a long time, ruled Europe was ultimately powerless. Monsignor Quixote goes to great lengths to point out the redundancy and flaws in Catholicism's structure. The reason Monsignor Quixote gains his title are extremely unclear, particularly as the bishop who promotes him has had at most one interaction with him. This deliberate ambiguity undermines the title of Monsignor, which is ultimately useless within the church, as seen again when a suspension out of Venice is delivered by the local bishop, thus limiting him from practice despite recognition from the Curia. Through the novel, the uselessness of the title within the church is repeated again and again, gradually pulling out Greene's main point, which is that the power of Catholicism comes not from the church but from the individual, thus reshaping the audience's faith and religiousness, and their power over past and present. The power the individual assigns to structures decides how much power they have in their lives. Both Cervantes and Greene address this directly. And this can reshape the audience's understanding of the present and the power of these structures in an individual's sense of the past. Both Don Quixote and Monsignor Quixote, as characters, believe in the superiority of an era that has since concluded, and this leads to the audience seeing the role of reminiscence in modernity. Don Quixote has a deep connection and yearning for the old ways of chivalry, and for this he is seen as insane. Don Quixote refers to the golden centuries of Spain, ironically stating that the ancients were the ones who bestowed this name. This temporal irony puts the golden centuries long before the ancients, thus pointing out the fact that the past has always been idealized. Cervantes was against the romanticism of the past in the modern era, as the reinforcement of class structures harmed him personally as he was on the lower end of them, and the romanticism risked a backslide from the rising force of capitalism. As such, he pushes that the past has always seemed better than the present, and we should continue forward, not backwards. Monsignor Quixote has a similar yearning for the past, as seen in his death's first act, the Latin Mass. The Latin Mass, which fell out of fashion in 1965, reflects the way that Quixote rejects and regrets the actions of the Vatican. The use of outdated church practices is repeated throughout the novel, gradually growing in importance from him reading the breviary before sleep to him practicing the Latin Mass. The way Greene constantly calls back to this is used to show the way the Monsignor is romanticizing a past and the doubts that the fluidity of the church naturally brings. This causes the audience to evaluate their worth, thus reshaping their understanding of the past in light of this fluidity, likely due to Greene's personal tendency to question and reinforce his own faith through his writing. Baylis states that Don Quixote quickly became a cultural icon in Spain. In Monsignor Quixote, this is depicted through the opening chapter. This opens the novel with the immediate idea of Monsignor Quixote's reminiscence on the past, but it also shows the way we can see the past through our own eyes. Don Quixote exists in the Monsignor version of the past, but not the bishop's. This sets up a key theme in Monsignor Quixote's depiction of reminiscence. One can not only reminisce on the past, but in fact their own personal understanding of it, and in that it becomes a factual history, whether or not it is based on truth. Cervantes shows the flaws in the romanticism of the past, reshaping the way the romanticized past is viewed by the audience. In opposition, Monsignor Quixote argues this reminiscence holds an important place in individuals' lives, and although we are able to shape it, it still leads to a richer understanding of the present. Greene's Monsignor Quixote and Cervantes' Don Quixote are both texts that transcend time, memorial pieces of fiction that are able to not only shape one's understanding of the present, but also to reshape one's view of the past by revealing the inherent power of belief, the role and power of organized structures, and the focus on a bygone era. Monsignor Quixote proves this most directly, and is thus better at challenging the audience's perception of the past and shaping an understanding of the present, by asking the audience to see how perception can change fact. Thank you.